to get a leg up in our society, but for decades, the high school graduation rate for Black and Latino students has lagged significantly behind whites and Asians. The recent studies shows that Black and Latino graduation rates are up 4% in the past few years. And while there's still much work to be done, any sign of improvement is positive as our nation's schools struggle to keep up in a global environment. Right now, we'll chat with Deputy Secretary at the Department of Education, John King. John, welcome to News One Now. So, exactly why have graduation rates gone up? Has it been about closing dropout factories? Has it been about better metrics? What has been the reasoning for the increase?
Well, it's both of those things, actually. So we've set out a clear, common standard for measuring graduation rates, and that's helped focus the attention of the country. And then over the last 6 years, under the President's leadership, we've really focused on dropout factories, high schools that have had chronically low graduation rates.
So what is a standard to measure dropout rates? Because to me, it sounds pretty simple. If the kids dropping out and kids not in school, I mean,
For years, states were reporting it in different ways. Some states were counting students with disabilities, for example, in one way, counting students who dropped out but went into GED programs as still in high school. States had a variety of different ways to think about it, and so we didn't have a clear picture of the graduation rates. We made that change to have a common view, and now we see progress. We actually are at 81%, the highest the graduation rate in the country has ever been.
So when we talk about closing these dropout factories, and what is required to close them, and how do you even target one?
So we have a school improvement grant program that is focused intensively on dropout factories. It's put in additional resources, but also required districts to think differently about how the schools are organized, how teachers are supported, again, to try to make sure that we raise graduation rates and ensure quality of opportunity.
So if we're talking about targeting students, give me some best practices in terms of what cities are really doing a good job in terms of targeting students, getting them involved in focus, and staying involved in education.
Sure, two really good examples. In New York City, one of the strategies was to look at failing high schools and to reorganize them as small schools where there'd be a lot more attention on the needs of individual students and often themes that would attract student interest. So a career technical education theme, or a theme focused on preparation for careers in criminal justice, a theme focused on project-based learning, and close relationships between teachers and students, where teachers would really, they'd know if a student was missing for a day, they'd call and make sure that they come to school. That kind of close attention helps students stay focused, stay in school. In Massachusetts, there was a focus on raising academic standards and saying all students in high school need to be prepared for college and career readiness. Massachusetts has made tremendous progress over the last decade, really, because they set high expectations.
If we are, what also about, I think this is critically important as well, Mary Wright Edelman really believed in this, the notion of freedom schools, partnering with those churches as well, providing sort of that standing in the gap, if we will, for education as well. And so how are nonprofits, how are external groups, the roles that they're playing when it comes to dropout rates?
Well, those partners are critical because when students start to get off track, it's often because they are missing school. So folks are there to support them, to make sure that they show up. That's the first step. Students often get off track in the summer. So summer jobs programs, summer enrichment opportunities are really important to keep students on track moving through high school. Those community-based organizations can also really serve as a safety net when students are struggling with issues at home, struggling with getting involved potentially in gangs. It's often community-based organizations, churches, that are the vehicle to prevent students from going in the wrong direction.
If we are identifying a kid who has the potential to drop out, so are there signs? What are we looking at? What are we looking for? And then how do we then intervene?
Often it's students who are missing school, chronically absent. It's students who are not earning credits. And so if you are in 9th grade and you don't have the credits to move on to 10th grade, you are at very high risk of dropping out. Often it's students who are disengaged. I was a high school teacher. One of the things that's important in high school is students have to be able to connect what they're doing in the classroom with a potential future beyond high school. If students don't see that connection, often that's when they become disengaged and they feel like, well, why is school important for me?
So what's the next phase for us? And so we talk about 4%, and so have you set goals in terms of what decrease you want to see in the next year?
one of the key things is to see a closing of the achievement gap. So the African
And
American
define that.
Yeah.
We hear achievement gap. What does that even mean?
Yep. So the African American graduation rate is about 71%. Latino students about 75%. White students about 87%. So that's the achievement gap there. So one of our goals is to see
Now,
that
again,
closing.
when we say achievement, what does that mean?
Yeah, so you've got this gap now, 15 points or so, between the graduation rate for white students and African Americans.
So we would define achievement gap. Are we talking graduation, or are we talking reading scores, math scores? What define achievement?
Both. I mean, it's reading and math scores, it's graduation rates, it's the rate at which students are going on to college, the rate at which students are graduating from college. We see that large gap at all of those levels. What's promising about the last couple of years at the high school graduation rate level is that we're actually seeing a closing of the gap, which is encouraging. It's been a long time coming. The risk is, particularly with the current discussion in Congress around the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, the main federal education law, the risk is that some in Congress would like to take us backwards, reduce resources for the highest needs communities, reduce our focus on the lowest performing schools, and take us back to an earlier era.
Okay. All right. Well, look, we certainly appreciate it. I mean, education is a huge thing for me. I on this show as well, and I am certainly also a big school choice advocate, giving our folks lots of different options, and so all is important. John, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks very much.